Okay, everybody, we are live. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Commercial Real Estate News Show. This is the Data Center edition, and I got these cast of characters on my show that are all talking about walk-up music and all these other sorts of great things. And we want Howie to go open one of those cases, don't we, Howie? We want to go open one of those cases. All right, so we're going to talk data centers today. Aren't we excited? Yay!
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sorry,
what's a data center?
What, I don't know. It's like, isn't it just like computers and stuff? Is it like, I don't know. Just kidding.
Who needs them?
Who needs them? All right, I'm going to let my folks introduce themselves. Howie, you're talking already, so go ahead, sir.
Hey, Howard Berry, Avison Young. I am a data center real estate guru, focused on all things data center real estate worldwide. You name it. You name it. I'm based in California, Silicon Valley. I am not in LA. Thank goodness.
Yes, for sure. We're praying for
Sorry for the people down there. It's horrible.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Bill.
Hey, everybody. I'm Bill Picard, Prime Data Centers. Been doing data centers for 25 years. I'm the vice president of our alternate channel. So I work with Howie and other brokers and agents across the U.S. and internationally to drive business to Prime. We focus on building massive scale, hyperscale data center campuses worldwide.
Awesome. Very cool. And Jay?
Hi, my name's Jay Huzzy. I'm with H5 Data Centers. We are a wholesale co-location provider based in the U.S. and we have lots of space and power available in different areas. Looking forward to talking to everyone today.
Awesome. Welcome. All right, we'll kind of get into it. And I like to kick it off with a crazy story. So who's crazier than Trump? All right, so Trump has a plan for data centers, and it looks like a small plan, Howie. It's like 20 billion. Like, really, is that enough for? I mean, I was like 200 billion. Maybe that might be big enough for Trump, but 20 billion, huh? Did you read that story? You know what he's doing?
When a 100 megawatt data center costs $1 billion to build, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's a small piece of what's happening in the market, but you know, where there's gigawatt deployment of data centers right now in multiple areas of Dallas and other markets. But it's helpful.
It's helpful for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of glanced over that article. I'm not really sure, but anybody, I guess, who's supportive of the industry is always helpful, right? Because we don't face that in our regions, do we, Bill? Do we face?
So first, I'm gonna to be fair to everyone, open kimono. I'm not a fan of our president-elect, so understand that in my comments. At the end of the day, Howie's being nice. $20 billion is basically a rounding error in our industry of what we need and where we're going. And he made it very clear in his comments that he knows absolutely nothing of what to which he was speaking. We also have to take a look at the gentleman who is providing the money. He is the second richest man in the Emirate, and he has been attached to Trump since 2016 when he was at New Year's Eve parties at Mar-a-Lago because Trump was building hotels in his country. So This is just more of a president-elect trying to exploit the presidency for his business than doing anything to really help our country or our business. I will say nothing more on that level. I'm sorry. But
no political views are accepted in this show.
I'm tapping out on politics.
I started out on politics. He's kind of an interesting. I just surprised that he went. Noel, I don't understand why I should be surprised by anything that man does. It's really kind of an interesting deal. I don't know, but
I think it's interesting, Amy, because there's so much money coming into the data center market that companies I've never even heard of. I just saw on a website of a group that popped up that they go, "We're data center developers." I'm like, "What have you developed?" And they don't own a data center, or have they ever developed? And I see that multiple times a day, or I get calls from groups that want to invest. We do support, and we're educating investors on what is a data center, and we're finding that really difficult to explain how data centers operate, how the market works. It's so different than traditional real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So Jay, when you're for your company, you're focused on leasing out the rack space, right? Is that where you're
Correct. Yeah, we're a wholesale colo provider, and we do lease out space, rack space, and buildings, whatever someone's looking for.
Okay. Do you own the buildings that you're in, or do you do both? Do you like operate some and own some, or
We have a kind of a mix of owning and operating, but we're mostly an owner operator of our sites. In some cases, we have some sites that are owned by other or that are operated by us and owned by others, but we are primarily an owner operator.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So let's go through, because we have someone asking the question about, can we explain the data center business? So Howie's right. No one knows what it is. So let's go through, because there's like edge, there's co-location, there's hyperscale. So Bill's focused on hyperscale. You're focused on co-location, and they have all these different terms that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So I'm not going to say, y'all have been in the industry longer than I have. So someone take that one. Take that. I'm lobbing that one out there.
Well, I'll start. You know, everything's dependent on power and the amount of power. So, what do you guys rate a retail tenant? Anything, 250 kW and under,
or lower?
Yeah, 250 kW and under. Anything above that, up to 4 megawatts, is wholesale, and above that, above 4 megawatts, would be hyperscale.
Okay, so explain to me. So what does that get you? 4 megawatts. How much computing am I doing? Give me a typical tenant size. Is it like an insurance company? Is 4 megawatts? Is it a like car dealership? Can you help there? Someone can explain that to me.
It's a good question, Amy. So if you have to quantify it in one of those ways that you threw out, let's say it's an insurance company.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we are in co-location operating other businesses' compute platforms.
Right.
As my kids call me, I'm a real estate agent for the internet. And
right.
because somewhere all of these servers and systems have to operate to produce all the data and produce the output, whether it's websites or quotes or whatever it is that they're doing, and
right.
connect it to the internet. So hyperscale is just large scale co-location. So Jay's company does lots of different sizes of co-location, from more retail cages of clients that have different sizes, maybe 5-10 cabinets in a cage, to maybe hyperscale clients as well. But at the end of the day, for the majority of us in the industry, it's all co-location, and it simply means that the client is co-locating their gear in my warehouse, but my warehouse is highly secure, has redundant power, has redundant cooling, and is designed to ensure that their product, whatever it is they're putting out to the world, doesn't go down.
So I totally get it now. So their servers are in your building.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And so they come and service their servers. You don't have to do anything with that. You just make sure that their servers are secure and safe, and they get access to them, right?
We might have techs that can do what's very often called smart hand services, which really is very limited, maybe power cycling a server for someone that needs to reset it, something like that. You go down the stack to other data center providers where they have managed services, and there's plenty of great companies that do that as well. But for us larger providers, co-location is, the customer runs their site.
Self-storage for computers. Okay.
Now, do you guys offer any cloud platforms?
At Prime, we do not. And most of the large hyperscaler and large wholesale platforms will not offer our own cloud platforms. But what we will do, especially if we're going down stack and doing some retail and smaller enterprise deals, we'll bring on Megaport and Packet Fabric and other companies that create these on-ramps to allow our customers who are doing a hybrid deployment between cloud and colo.
And those are the value add services that add stickiness to our business. When those customers come in, they look at us and they say, hey, they have all of these different items that we can do and all these different services that we can work with. They have partners in the industry that make our product more valuable. And then that's how they choose who they're going to work with.
Okay. So, so let's talk about how data centers are kind of transforming because of AI, right? And there's more power demand because of AI. I think somebody equated, I don't know what it was like. You do Google search, it requires this much power. If you do like a Chat GPT search, it requires 20x. I don't know.
Can I actually give you that answer? So
Yeah.
my good
I
friend
like
Bill
that.
Kleiman gave this stat at a trade show, and I love it. I share it all the time. If we go online right now and do a Google search, we type in whatever we want, and we want to type in, I want to research howardberry.com, because who doesn't? And you hit enter, and it comes back with all your Howard Berry images. That transaction used enough power to power an incandescent light bulb over my head for 11 seconds.
Okay. Gotcha.
Everything's going to AI. Even our Google searches are AI enabled now. Every AI query that we do uses 800 to 1,000 times that much power.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And to tie that into one of the articles that you gave us, the PMI, the personal AI computer, that's $3,000, is going to have that kind of capability.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So what he's talking about is Jensen Huang basically at the CES show showed the little new AI PC that NVIDIA's just come up with, and he can help hold it in his hand and all those great things. So does that mean that if everybody gets an AI PC, then the power load is now at their house? Their electric bills are going to go up, basically, if they're using those AI PCs, right?
If NVIDIA is smart, their power supply does not exceed what is in computers today.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So it will not.
The search itself is going to go out to other computers and run those computers to get that search information. That's where your power is being used.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense, because everybody was saying, well, then you don't need a data center anymore because I got a little data center in my house. But I think that's not the case.
No,
you
need all the data. All the data is stored in a LLM, large language model, where it's stored in a silo that it goes and queries it from that silo.
Interesting. Okay. So basically NVIDIA just blew up the data center industry even more, because, all those tech geek first adopters are going to go get their AI PCs as soon as they can. He made them at pretty cool price points. I think there was like $560. One was $580. It's like something pretty cheap. It's really kind of interesting. Very cool.
With AI and the amount of data we use, the amount of everywhere we go is recorded, every camera, everything's being recorded. Our whole lives are being recorded. That all that data is constantly being stored. So the amount of data we have now doubles every year.
Yeah. Do you think it'll eventually triple? I mean, I think if you get somebody somebody starting to use an AI PC and understanding, I just think there's more ways. What AI is going to allow us to do is capture more data, right? I mean, if we come back to real estate, the things that we do, we capture building data, like the stuff that people don't capture today because it was a pain in the butt to do. You can do fairly easily with AI. And so now that you're doing that, now you got more data you need stored and all these other things. And so I think that's what AI allows us to do, right? I mean, heaven to Betsy. My mother had pictures for 10 years on her iPad. Like, I just can't imagine what everybody else is doing. And she saved them all. I was like really trippy when I went and saw her iPad after she passed away. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like crazy town. That was like when my kid was born, my oldest, who's 28 or whatever. She had pictures, all sorts of crazy pictures. But can you imagine that multiplied by 300 million people in the US? Like how much, and that's just pictures, videos, all other things, right?
All that stuff. Yep.
Yeah. No, that is super crazy. All right, let's talk about let's move on to the next story, where all these, there was 3 stories that came out. They came out today or yesterday or within the past couple of days. So just depending on the area of town you're in, right? So Michigan basically is extending tax breaks for data centers. Then you've got one that's going to tax them more. What was the other one? I'm looking for it. And then you have one that basically says no. It's in Is it Pennsylvania?
Pittsville. Oh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania.
It's a county in Virginia, I believe.
It's a county in Virginia somewhere. This magical county is probably where Dracula is housed. And
Pittsville.
Pittsville, Pennsylvania.
They deserve the money.
But they just said that no to data centers. So it's like all different people are embracing the data center trend. What are y'all seeing in your neck of the woods? What are y'all seeing as far as the legislation stuff happening?
Well, I'm in Northern Virginia, and so we're kind of at the epicenter of data centers, really, for the U.S. and arguably the world. Data centers were the belle of the ball for Loudoun County in 06 and 07 when the county ran into a financial crisis. Yeah. And the gentleman who ran economic development, his good friend Buddy Reiser, realized, hey, let's capitalize and grow this data center community because of the tax revenue it can bring in. And it saved the county. And I can tell you my property taxes are 30 and 40 cents on the dollar lower than anybody else's of my friends in other counties. But different areas have different motivations, and different areas either have run out of patience. We have a lot of data centers. And as much as it frustrates me that many of my neighbors don't get it and don't truly value what we bring to the area, I do get that everybody has their tipping point. I can't speak to some of these other counties, but at the end of the day, Loudoun County sees upwards over $1 billion annually in tax revenue. The numbers of jobs that are created by data centers is astounding. People say, oh, no, it doesn't create a lot of data center jobs. There's nobody in those buildings. Well, one, yes, there are. And two, there's plenty of jobs being created that come and go from the data center or are around the data center, from restaurants to you name the retail. So it's a shame that's the benefits that the data center brings to the economy are sometimes lost.
Yeah, for sure.
And Bill, beyond that, the trades that are affected, if you're not pulling in those types of businesses, those trades that build and that plumb and that electrify things, they're not working. And like you said, the county was dying. This is the way to revive it, or was the way to revive it. I think, Amy, to give you my 2 cents, I think places like Montana are getting a lot of requests from people to say, hey, we want to buy land that's powered in your state so that we can bring this to one of our partners or customers and say, hey, here's where a place that you can build. So you're seeing that in Montana, which didn't have a lot of data center activity at all. In Virginia, tons of data activity, and folks that live there are kind of saying, hey, we don't want to live next to a data center. So you're seeing that kind of move its way up the chain to the folks that manage and legislate the county. And it really just depends. Michigan, they're saying, hey, let's get more people. Let's get more people. Let's make it easier for data centers to expand here. That to me is a good move.
Yeah, right. I mean, from a tax revenue perspective, at least, right? But we were talking about the other day, data centers operate as almost emergency operations at some point. They can stay up, right, when everybody else goes down and like tornadoes and whatever it might be. So it's good to have a couple of data centers around, right? Because then if you need to have a war room because you just got lambasted by whatever, a hurricane or whatever, at least you've got something that's running for at least a little while, you would think. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a good portion of companies that just go into co-location for disaster recovery purposes only, and they just deploy some core servers with core operating on them, and that's what they'll run if there's an issue. So the gamut of customers is very, very wide that we have to work with in this business.
Yeah. So back to the AI point, is it changing the data center? Like, are you going to have to rebuild data centers? Are you going to have to expand your data centers? Are you going to have to bring on-site power generation to them? What is the big changes because AI is coming? Or
is there all of the above? Is that?
I was going to say all the above. Yeah, I was
right.
going to say the same, Bill. Yep.
All of the above. So can you do that? Can you expand on your existing footprints as they are today? I mean, most data centers are on plenty of land, I would assume. So you could just build on?
Some you can. A majority of data centers in the U.S. are all, which is surprising to people, we consider like 1 megawatt, maybe 2 megawatts. And it's been like that for years. And now we're only building new data centers that start at 100 megawatts. So it's the demand for power from AI, because the GPUs that drive AI have a higher power demand. is increasing every year. So we still are going to need all those 1 to 2 megawatt data centers for edge deployment. Edge is what is the connectivity to speed up your connectivity to the self-driving cars, to your taxis that have no drivers in them. We need data centers deployed everywhere for connectivity and low latency.
Interesting.
Amy, yes, what's happening right now is such a change in power density. Our industry is strapped for space, for capacity.
Yeah.
If you look at Northern Virginia, the vacancy rate is sub 1%. I mean, that's insane. So we're building and pre-leasing data centers that will come online in 26 and 27, and writing contracts for them now and planning for them now.
Yeah.
That's good and bad. And here's what I mean by that. It's challenging that we're so low on inventory. However, one of the articles you shared with us earlier talked about, can you really change or upgrade an old building and retrofit buildings or data centers and expand them? You can, but it's usually very costly. And you usually find a gazillion problems you never imagined going into it. So it then becomes even more costly.
Right.
Some data centers can easily have power and cooling added to them if they're a modular design, and I could bore you with what a modular design is, but I won't. But the good news is now that we're catching up on inventory, in my opinion, now we're able to actually build for the future. We can build for the present and the future, because right after AI, we've got quantum computing coming, and that's going to make AI look like child's play power-wise, from what I'm reading.
Yeah, I know.
So even though it's a challenge that we're low on inventory, we're able to start building in, liquid to chip cooling and rear door heat exchangers, and eventually immersion cooling will really take hold. It's still got a ways to go, but while we're playing catch up, we're now building data centers for what we need for 5, 10, and 20 years down the road.
Yeah. Do you think you can build a data center today that would suffice in 20 years, or you think it's going to change in 3? I mean, you're hoping it lasts 20 years, don't you?
I mean, hindsight. Sorry, Bill. Hindsight tells us no. Hindsight tells us no. You can't build that. But as Bill alluded to, modular building is really the way to make that happen. You plan for growth and you build your building in such a way that you have your stub outs ready for power, cooling, all those different things, and just keep building and building and building as you go. H5 is big on that. We do a lot of buying buildings that we then standardize to H5 standards, and we find success in that. So there are ways to do it, and Bill made a very good point. It is very expensive, but we feel like there's a lot of opportunity out there to take what's there and recycle what's there.
Yeah. So talking about quantum computing, IBM has made a big bet on quantum, and they have now you can, as a quantum startup, you can use their quantum cloud, and you pay basically $100 a minute to use it. And $100 a minute, but the processing power that it has, you can do whatever you're trying to get done in milliseconds. So it's just super, super cool. We're starting to, tinker with it now, but it's super, super cool. And, but in order for IBM to let you play with the big dogs, you have to have like a PhD, quantum computing, somebody on your staff, because they're not just going to let little me get up there and go, I want to learn.
So you don't even need a minute.
Yeah, you don't even need
it. Right.
Right.
So basically, the quantum, the minute has become the hour. Like at the end of the day, that's what we just did, right? And so anything you're having to spend an hour on now becomes a minute or less, which is just super, super cool. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. So that'll, if more and more people start figuring out how to use quantum computing, Leaf is just computing. I think IBM took a big leap over AI and just went, okay, now we got to get a quantum, right? Which is kind of yeah. But who knows? Maybe it'll blow up in their face. I don't know. IBM's pretty smart. There's a couple. There's just a couple.
Few smart guys over there. Few smart people over there, I should say.
Yep.
Very cool. So, Jay, what part of the world are you in?
I live in Oakland. I live in Oakland, California,
Oh,
north of all the problems down south. So I'm good here.
Down by Howie, right? Down by San Jose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm near you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not far. We're about 40 minutes away from one another.
Yeah.
All right.
Every
Now and again, we have lunch together, things like that.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. So, what do you think? Where do you think the next, besides Virginia? I mean, since they don't want you there anymore, Bill. So, where's the next big hub of data centers? Do you think?
Where isn't it? Data centers are going everywhere they can find power. You know, I just looked up a statistic right now. Co-location, which both Jay and Bill do, is the market is about 16 gigawatts. There's the vacancy in the co-location market's 1.9%, giving us like 304 megawatts available in the market. There's 600 megawatts under construction and 29 gigawatts planned for development. And I guarantee you probably that 29 gigawatts is already taken by somebody.
Oh, you mean it's already spoken for?
There's 16 now running. And then yeah, go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say, if it's not already spoken for, people already have it on their radar and they're starting to talk about it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's just co-location, and double that capacity is cloud. Cloud is very similar footprint, which is Google, AWS, Microsoft. They're the cloud providers, and they're a similar size footprint.
Yeah, that's just crazy sound. Yep.
So, Amy, what happened in Northern Virginia is never going to happen again anywhere else. It's a very special story, and we could do a whole show on it sometime if you really want me to bore the hell out of you. I can do that for a full hour, I promise. But what we saw in the formative years at Equinix when I was there early on and afterwards is we saw this push of data center cities to what we call the NFL cities. So you had your Chicago's, you had your New York, New Jersey area, you had Nova, you had Dallas, later on, Northern California. But then came Phoenix, then came Atlanta, and some other larger markets. The reason for those big cities and these big epicenters, if you will, of data center traffic was all about latency. Because when you're dealing with cloud-based and cloud-enabled technologies, when you're looking at what we're doing right now, voice and video over the web, early on, it was hard to do. And you had to be near the peering points, which are very often where Equinix is, to be able to be as close as possible to the the dark fiber networks so that you can get your content in the lowest latency time possible to the end consumer, which is the eyeball networks and those of us who are downloading Netflix or whatever we're doing. Now that we're transitioning to a lot of AI content and a lot of AI work, traffic on the web, latency isn't a big issue anymore. Latency issues for AI are actually in the development clusters, in these data centers where we have to have all these packed up GPUs tight together while they're doing their learning. That's where they can't have latency. But in taking the finished product out to the world, they don't have the same latency issues. So now we're seeing Reno and Vegas and you name it, Utah, Salt Lake City, the places that aren't big peering points anymore, becoming maybe those next hubs that you're asking about, because we can. And we can go to places that have more space, an open community to our existence there, and power.
Dakotas. The Dakotas.
Yeah.
I was going to say Dakotas,
Dakotas,
again, to the Montana article.
Right.
Montana is going to be another place. I mean, anywhere, like I stated before, anywhere that there is ample land and ample power, and even if there isn't ample power, get to work with the local utilities and have them build power for you. That's where you're going to see these things rise up.
Well, there is a tendency, though, we see that staying away from natural disasters. I can't get any hyperscalers to look in Houston or in Florida.
No,
they're like, no, we're not going there. Or in Kansas, for that matter. Tornado Alley is a big stay away, and that's one of the reasons Virginia became #1 market too. There's low natural disasters.
Of course.
Until Bill moved to town.
But ironically, though, Data Center Alley is adjacent to Dulles Airport, and planes almost touch all the buildings every day.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy. So there's a big cluster of data centers in northern Sweden, and they did that because basically they don't have to cool the damn things because it's like frozen near the Arctic Circle. And they got their I can't remember who was it. There was an article saying that the PUE for those data centers in northern Sweden is like 1.05, which basically means that what they're using to power the building is minimal compared to what they're using to power the servers. Like I'm just trying to explain, but you're powering the server, you can build back to your tenant, but you can't build back the power that you're using to power the building, right? And so that's usually your cooling correlation and all these other different things. So I'm trying to explain PUE to people, but yeah, so it's an amazing thing when you like that. So people were talking about doing them in the oceans and doing them in all these weirdo places. But if you do on-site power generation, if you go there, then you're not having to stick it up at the Arctic Circle, right, anymore, because or is it still an issue? Is PUE going to be an issue still? Even if you're doing on-site power generation, you think?
I mean, even if you're doing yes, there's always going to be a PUE. I mean, I'm thinking about this as we speak, but yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be a parity, I don't think, on that. No, you're going to have a PUE regardless. And PUE encompasses also cooling. So part of the reason they're in the Arctic Circle or close to the Arctic Circle is because they're using outdoor cooled air to keep that expense as low as possible. So that's really driving that PUE lower.
Right, for sure.
But Amy, there's so much we have to consider in all of this. Whether it's Arctic Circle or wherever, you also have to have a trained data center workforce. Because the men and women that run these data centers, we seek to hire retiring Navy nukes because they know how to run mission critical facilities. The person who runs an apartment building or an office building is not someone that is qualified for a data center business or a data center job. So you have to have that, but you also have to have connectivity. I can't speak to what's going on near the Arctic Circle, but I don't think that they're ever going to have the dearth of fiber capacity and options in networks that you find, in Northern Virginia or Chicago. So there's a lot of pushes and pulls in that kind of an equation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's this whole push to sustainability. I don't think it's going to go away. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why nobody wants a data center around in their backyard because they're afraid all the power is going to get sucked away. But I don't know. How does the industry kind of move the needle or the PR needle that they're sucking all the power away? How does the industry do that when they're if you're building a new one, say, I mean, Texas, we don't care. Come on. We love you here. They're building a 786 acre campus outside of Dallas, right? We love you in Texas. Yeah.
Amy, it's got to be self-generation on site, and we're waiting for small modular nuclear to be generating, on site with it to make sense for the data center to generate the power and then feed back to the grid. The power source should come from where the data center is. And, we have not a lot of people know this, but there are 57 nuclear power plants in the United States. And of those, there's 97 nuclear reactors in the United States already operating. And we never talk about that. We're scared about expanding nuclear. But nuclear has been perfectly safe. And most of these facilities were built in the 70s and 80s, and they're still operating. So, nuclear is safe. Small modular nuclear is going to be safe. And it doesn't make any sense to build a nuclear power plant 100 miles away from a data center and then extend an extension cord all the way over. And then a storm comes in and breaks that extension cord. Now you got to run generators to keep the data center running. It's build the power at the data center. And that's the way we should be looking at this. But the data center industry doesn't adopt any new technologies very quickly. It takes a long time to change from what we do traditionally to anything new because it works. Let's not change it. Let's do what we're doing.
Yeah. And it's very expensive, and they can afford
expensive.
it, and most others can't.
Yeah, that's true. So did you see the article about Deep Fission and how they partnered up with you're gonna I don't know. They partnered up, they said they've done a small modular nuclear site at a data center, which is like super cool. I guess is it I don't know. They were touting that it was the first one. So hopefully we finally got nukes at a data center. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But at least we got one pilot. We got one pilot to see how it works. I don't know.
Well, so
Doesn't the Department of Energy have to say? Don't they have a say in all of that?
They do. Absolutely. They approve.
Yeah, and there are a lot of regulations and laws and rules and all that around running a nuclear plant. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So you actually got me very excited earlier, Amy, when I saw that you wanted to maybe talk about nuclear at all. Fortunately, my next door neighbor and very good friend is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Reactors at the DOE. And he's transitioning out of that role over to what's called the Idaho National Labs, where he's the Director of Nuclear Reactor Development. But so I've been teaching him data centers. He's been teaching me nuclear words. I don't know what they all mean, but I know a lot of words now. But he's also become a leading speaker on nuclear power and the transition into our data center industry. He's been asked to speak regularly at our data center events. His name is Brian Smith. And the reality is, Jay, you nailed it. The DOE is very aware of this and very aware of the importance of energy resiliency for our economic stability as well as our military stability, and it feeds into AI as well. So the DOE is leaning in hard right now into supporting this transition or transformation, if you will, of our power to nuclear, and not just for data centers. It's going to be really across the country. We are behind, I believe, most of Europe on this. And the SMR technologies that are out there right now are exponentially safer than and how we mentioned, we've got so many reactors already, but what they're building now in these SMR phase 3 reactors, it's amazing. And it's going to be, but the PR campaign to not have the NIMBYs losing their minds when all of a sudden, hey, I don't want any more data centers in Northern Virginia. Oh, but bring them nuclear reactor. That'll be great. No, it's just
I don't see it. Yeah, and Amy, just another point about
it or something.
Yeah.
Make it pretty.
And Amy,
put it over there by my
point.
kid's soccer field. That'll be fine. There's room.
Another point about companies that are dealing with nuclear is Microsoft. They're working to restart 3 Mile Island, and they want the power.
Yeah, I know. I think the DOE quashed that. I mean, so no, it was funny because Microsoft went to go rent one, and then soon Jeff Bezos, the millionaires, had to fight amongst each other. Well, I want one too, and so then Jeff Bezos was trying to get
He had one first. He had it first.
Oh, Bezos had it first.
AWS they bought a nuclear power plant first. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that is crazy, Tom.
But it's where we have to go. You asked about on-site generation and all that. That's all very feasible. The challenge we have with it, in my opinion, and you guys tell me if you think I'm right or disagree, but there's two challenges that I see primarily for on-site generation. One is cost. Simply, if we can use the grid, if we can use the power company, for lack of a better word, I can't think of the utility right now, that is the better cost to pass on to our client. But then the other challenge simply is space on that land. When we take on X number of acres, it's because we want to develop X number of data centers that are revenue producing. If we're foregoing a lot of that space to our own on-site generation, it does change the math on your cost that you now have to bear to your client on the data center.
Right.
I challenge you, Bill. I challenge you. They actually on-site generation eliminates generators and air quality problems.
It does if you're using the grid for your backup, but
no, the generation has its own backup. You have redundancy in your generation. So instead of using generators, now your on-site generation is your redundancy because you have multiple generation sources on site. So you can eliminate all the generators and the cost of development and buying generators. Sorry, generator industry, but it's that's the way it works. Elon Musk deployed XAI in Memphis, Tennessee, in something like 3-4 months, but he spent $7 billion in 3 or 4 months to get his data center up and running, 100,000 GPUs and $7 billion. And he used on-site generation with gas to get it up and running before he got tied to the grid. Just insane. Was it like, don't get in his way, because he'll make it happen.
So was he using like a Genbacher generator, or what was
I don't know what he was using, but it was natural gas self-generation on site, something like that.
Huh, interesting. That's crazy. That's super crazy. Well, I
And
mean,
that's half of his GPUs. He's going to deploy double that size.
interesting. That's crazy time. So I'm assuming he got eventually Memphis Power and Light, or whoever it is that's going to bring power to him eventually to bring power.
He's
right
near a self-generation natural gas power generation power plant. So it was pretty just across the street. And I think they generate a gigawatt of power there.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't put it past Elon Musk to do anything, because he's probably going to do something. Who knows? Who knows? So let's get back to renewable energy. I guess everybody thinks nuclear is renewable, so that's fine. But the only way, so people ask me this all the time about, well, why can't they use wind farms, or why they can't use solar? We're going to go back to data center 101 here for a second. Solar is still a very expensive way to charge a battery. And so there's no possible way you can, especially on the data centers that are 100 megawatts or more, that you can ever use solar or wind, right? I mean, we're limited in the power generation that we can do. So it's going to have to be natural gas, or it's going to have to be small modular nuclear, right? That's it. That's all we got.
Well,
go ahead, Jay.
Solar generation, back to Bill's point about the geography or the land you're buying, solar generation takes a ton of space. So if you're buying land to build data center, the last thing you want to do is put a bunch of solar there, unless you put it on your roofs or things like that. But you know, it is. I think it's a developing industry and a developing technology that's going to improve over time. I think it's something that'll eventually be part of the mix there for large generation of power.
Yeah. So when you talk about, there was this article about how expensive AWS is, and a lot of people are bringing back, like getting off of AWS and bringing back to their own servers. Does that then feed into the co-location industry? Like, because I'm assuming
100%.
Repatriation. We love that.
Repatriation, correct. Yeah, we love it when they do that.
Yes.
Come out, get off the cloud, get off those bare servers, those bare metal servers, buy servers, put them in our location, and manage them.
Oh, okay, I see. So that's what's kind of leading because AWS is expensive as hell. I mean, it just is, especially for us little startups like me. It's really expensive. I mean, it's not something that I can just go do. It's a huge expense for a startup like me. No joke. I could easily get into like $1 million in a heartbeat of just hosting if I was using AWS, like that. And I'm just like, like, oh my gosh, it's like, I can't scale and grow that way. So it's really. So I guess everybody else is recognizing that. I'm assuming it'll force AWS to drop their prices because they've met the top of the market.
No, I don't know that it will. No. Because if you think about it, we are the amount of data that we produce and consume is rising exponentially annually, and so all of these forces will continue to play an important part. So when I was with a couple other companies that were not as much focused on hyperscale, companies much like H5 that did a lot of commercial and enterprise and all that, we absolutely saw some amount of a movement of clients away from colo into the cloud. And one of the reasons why we wanted those ramps, those on-ramps, was because we wanted to be able to monetize that movement, but at the same time, also to make it easy for them to come back. because like you said, it's expensive. They found out quickly it's really inexpensive and easy to put all my stuff over there. But when I want to take it out, when I want to massage it and work with it, oh no. So the pendulum swings both ways, and eventually it comes back to the middle, and that's what we're seeing now, this repatriation. But I don't know. I don't follow AWS closely enough to say, oh, it's going to change their pricing. No, because there's still companies that are still moving to cloud for the first time and still out there to learn the lesson.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the difference is they look at it, they don't own or operate their own data center. They don't have the cost of refreshing new servers, all the equipment, the employees, the operation. The cloud looks really desirable, but it's like a gas pump. Anytime you're pumping gas or moving data, you're paying for it.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess maybe it's just a scale thing. At some point you outgrow it and you can afford to have your own servers, right? It becomes economy of scale. At some point you can just do it yourself, right?
Put your servers in their data centers. Yeah.
And we're going to see the same thing with AI, because right now, this boom of AI, this is all these companies like CoreWeave and Lambda Labs and all these companies that are building these basically cloud-based AI services, and everybody's going to go there to use their AI. But over time, corporations and organizations are going to become AI savvy and start incorporating an AI solution and program into their own infrastructure and pull back from just a cloud-based AI service.
Interesting. So there was this article about talking about services. This article about how Equinix, this is in Ireland, they bought BT's kind of assets, and BT was moving away from owning assets. Is that a thing that you might see happen will there be something like that happening in the US, or is there going to be, I mean, look, I don't own data centers, but I'm a former real estate owner. It's, not for everybody. So, it's like a kind of interesting thing. So you don't think it's going to happen here?
What's that? Go ahead, Bill.
For people that'll they'll be the people who just want to be the data center services people and not actually own the data center.
So the answer is it's already happened and happening. They refer to it as an asset light strategy. Right. And BT decided, hey, we're a telecom company. We want to focus on telecom services because that's what we've done. That's what we're born and raised to do. We got into data centers and we realized, you know what? It's not what we do.
Okay.
Verizon did it. They sold off all their data center assets. They gobbled them all up and then they sold them all off. AT&T has done it. Zayo most recently got rid of their zColo platform, and now DataBank has 99 data centers because they bought them all up. So yes, we're seeing this retrenching of focus of what we all do, but it's been happening for some time, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah. So get people to specialize what they're good at, right? And
it's the same reason why enterprise companies sell off data centers, and then there's companies like you look at Element Critical. They go out and do sale leaseback strategy. A pharmaceutical company built their own data center. They realized we don't know how to run a data center. We don't want to run a data center. And by the way, we only need about 25% of this data center that we built. So let's sell it to somebody. We'll lease some of it, and everybody will be happy.
Yeah. Sure.
We sell those all day.
Yeah. That's what keeps Howie off the streets at night.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, we want to keep Howie.
It's not.
That's not what I've seen him on the streets at night.
I've seen him too. It's not pretty. It's not pretty.
We all have our legs. Don't yuck my yum.
Yeah, for sure. All right, pull
Howie,
out your crystal balls. Pull out your crystal balls. What happens in 2025? What do you see happening this year? Pull it out. Mine's broken, so I'm not going to say anything. But pull out. So if you had to pull out, put the Swami hat on. Think Johnny Carson. Put the card on your head. What do you think happens in 2025? This is such a hard question.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of the same as 24. A lot of the same at 24. A lot of deployment. A lot more buying of power or figuring it out. Hopefully we understand the small modular nuclear and we get some deployment there. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with these large, as Bill mentioned, the GPU deployments. Maybe there's a consolidation of the GPUs.
Do we run out of power? Is there so much demand that we can't even just fill it? I mean, there is now, right? We can't even fill it today. But do we actually hit a breaking point in the power grid? Do you think that happens?
No, I
No.
think the power grid's going to recognize there's a lot of money to be made doing this, and they're gonna buy in. It's taking time because they're slow to move. It takes a lot for them to do anything, but it will catch up. It's got to. Business won't survive if it doesn't. So that's going to happen. And for 2025, I think we're going to see a lot of the same stuff that happened in 24. We'll see a lot of pre-leasing. I think there's some facilities that will come online to give, to provide some critical capacity. But I think 25 is still a year where things are ramping up again, or are still ramping up to kind of meet the demand that's out there. But end of 25, I think we'll start to see a lot more activity and a lot more capacity coming online. 26 will be like that as well. A lot of capacity coming online.
Really?
What Howie said of, a lot more of what we saw in 24, but I'll take it another step, but much bigger. And we're already seeing it. Tract is a company that develops powered land, and they just announced the startup company that they're going to spin off of Fleet. And Fleet is going to build fleet-sized data centers, as they're calling them, on the land that Tract is developing. Avio Digital is building massive hyperscale campuses. And what we're seeing is these companies want to build these massive campuses for one tenant.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
that's a change. And the reality is, whether you're an AI startup, because they've got money, they've got Nvidia and Supermicro and all of them behind them. They've got money. And then but we still got the AWSs, the Metas, the Azures, all of those guys scaling aggressively as well. We're going to see a lot of these super hyperscale campuses going to one, maybe two tenants, but
Wow.
Yeah, and I think there'll be some M&As this year, and there's some mergers of some companies, consolidations of operators.
Of operators?
Mhm.
On top of that, I think you're going to see a lot of smaller, newer companies try to break into the industry this year. That used to be real estate type of plays, but now they're saying, hey, data center is where the money is in real estate. And I think you're going to see quite a few of those pop up as well. I don't know how successful they'll be. Depends on their, their choice of partnership with an operator or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think we'll see quite a few of those start popping up as well.
How well has Prologis it dipped its toe in data centers? How well has it dipped its toe? Has it started? I mean, does anyone know? Can we comment on Prologis? No.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about them. I have some colleagues that are involved, so I hope they're doing really well.
It's kind of interesting.
They're involved. They have data center real estate. They've had it for years. It's part, industrial portfolio, and they're expanding where they can. So, they're world's largest industrial owner. So I think
you would think they could figure it out pretty quickly, right? I mean,
they've got a really good team. They've got a really good team there.
Yeah, I can tell you the design build team working with them is one of the best in the world.
Oh, well, look at that. So
they got people who know how to build data centers working.
So they went out, used all their billions, and found the right team. Well, look at that. That's what happens when you have money. That's cool. You can go buy the right people.
Exactly right.
That is super cool. Well, thanks for coming. See, the hours ended. Look at that. Y'all
done?
Hey, my clock says we have 8 minutes left.
I thought we were going to make fun of Howie at some point. Why doesn't that happen?
Is this the Howie roast portion of the show?
No.
Yes, Howie.
No.
Roast Howie.
Jay, aren't you working yourself out of a job? Are you got any space left?
Am I doing what? No, we have.
Do you have any space left? Where do you have space? Where do you have space?
If I can plug H5 for 1 minute, we do have space and power available in the country, and we do have quite a bit of power coming on, quite a bit of critical capacity coming online mid-year, end of year. And we are actively acquiring more sites and more capacity. So we're in the market, we're making waves, and we're ready to take customers. So
can you talk about what you guys bought?
Excuse me?
Can you talk about what you bought recently?
We bought the Yahoo facilities in Quincy, Omaha, and Buffalo, and we've got big plans for those facilities to open and grow and expand.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And if I could throw it out there, Prime is aggressively expanding in the Elk Grove Village area, 180 megawatts, 240 megawatts down in the Phoenix market. And we're also expanding in Madrid, Denmark, Frankfurt, all over Europe. So there's a lot coming from Prime in the next couple of years.
Wow, look at that. That is awesome. So educate me, Data Center 101. You say, hey, I got like 5 megawatts available. How fast does that happen? Like people snap that up? Is it like
You had me at hello.
That's pretty funny.
Wait, how long does it take to get a lease done in a data center? 100 megawatt data center. Tell me.
That's kind of the long tent pole is going through the paperwork, going through the terms and conditions, going through the commercials. It takes time.
What's that, a year?
But there
6
is the
months?
power. There is the power of the LOI. So if somebody is very sincere about a location, an LOI can do a lot of good for that.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, Rick Earl. All right, let's do our outtakes. Tell people how to get a hold of you, gentlemen, if they would like to go, co-locate some servers at your locations. Go ahead.
I'll start. Jay Huzzy, H5 Data Centers. I'm at j.huzzy@h5datacenters.com, or you can call me at 415-933-6244. And my phone is always in my pocket. I will always answer unless I'm preoccupied.
Well, or your AI avatar will answer for you too.
Correct. My AI to do it.
Bill?
All right. So I'm B. Picard, BPICARD at primedatacenters.com. Please get in touch with me. I'd love to introduce you to our whole team. I specialize in working with the brokers and the master agents of the world. But we've got a phenomenal team. So looking forward to speaking to people.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody watching is going to be at PTC. I know Howie's coming down.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Pick me up on the way over.
I will. Jay, you going to be at PTC?
Fortunately, no. We have a good group of folks that will be there, and so you're welcome to stop by and say hello. David will be there. Our
I know David will be there, of course.
Yeah, so
David doesn't miss it.
Yeah, he'll be there. Yeah.
Very cool.
Guess me, Howard Berry, Avison Young. You can reach me at howard.berry, Berry, at avisonyoung.com, or just Google best data center broker in the world, and there it is. 408-375-6853. Too fun, guys. Had a great time. This is good.
Thank you.
We'll do this more.
Next week. All right.
Thank you, Amy. Really appreciate the invite.
Thanks, Amy. Great job, Amy.
All right.
being here.
Thank you, guys. All of you. Amy, bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.